Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Yep, you guessed it. Today's episode is about outer space.
Let the game begin.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius.
I am your father.
You like Huey Lewis on the news?
Yes. And you're not sure about this, are you?
You're gonna die, clown!
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss? Say, the most you ever lost on a coin toss. Call it.
Whose motorcycle is this?
It's a chopper, baby.
Whose chopper is this?
Zed's.
Who's Zed?
Zed's dead, baby.
Bring out today!
This is a tasty burger.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Welcome to the fucking show.
Hello, welcome back to See What Sticks, a podcast about everything and nothing. I'm your host, Russell.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And it's a Ben and Russell episode. And if you listen to the beginning of the episode, you would know we are doing an episode all about outer space. And I'm really excited. Ben, what have you been up to?
School. That's pretty much been it.
How is school going?
So far, so good. Not a whole lot of homework this semester, but I think I said this before, tons of reading. So that's pretty much been taking up my time.
Yeah. I can imagine, because you're doing a lot of classes in liberal arts stuff. So you are going to getting
them core classes knocked out.
Yup. Oh, God, I'm getting so many emails. Sorry if you can hear my email thing. It just tells you that I'm a real person and not a robot. But, yeah.
He did that on purpose, just to make himself sound like he's an important dude.
Yeah, I know. Actually, it's because I haven't turned on my laptop in like 6 days because I've been using my normal computer. And everything from the last 6 days is coming to me right now. So if my stuff starts blowing up, it's not because I'm popular or cool. It's just because I haven't opened up my laptop. But, yeah, so that, yeah. What's your most intensive class for reading stuff?
Probably women's history it's like the first half of American history, but it's mainly focused on women's history. So like, colonization to just post-Civil War. Oh, cool. That's a really interesting time, especially for women's history. Yeah. A lot of impact that women had on the nation, as I'm sure a lot of people can imagine. But it's even though a lot of it comes down to they were mostly helping, say, for revolutionary on the home front, keeping things going in households. They also did. There are some choice women that did some stuff for the war, and their contributions are definitely priceless to the development of our country.
Yeah. Yeah, the stuff you don't read about in the history books when you're a kid and learning about it. I took a women in culture class my senior year or last year at Purdue, and I was the only guy in the class. So there's a lot of, hey Russell, what is your opinion on this as a guy? And I'm I don't know, I'm pretty progressive, so I guess whatever. I mean, I agree with you.
Yeah. I haven't gotten any of that yet because I'm one of 4 guys in this class of maybe 20.
Oh, okay.
So they haven't really singled us out yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
If anything, just to be well, I'm not part of the patriarchy, so
yeah, I'm not an incel or whatever, that whole thing. If you guys don't know what incels are, that's really good. Just continue not knowing what that is. I'm a little upset that I know what it is, and I'm upset I'm upset that's a real thing. But yeah,
that these people exist.
Yeah, it's really weird. I also took a black pop culture class. It was like African American and black culture in like our world, and I was the only white guy in the class. There was another white girl, so I got a lot of, "Hey, Russell's a white guy. What do you think about this?" And I'm like, I don't know.
Who was your professor for that?
Her name was.
Okay, never mind.
Oh,
that singles it out already, because I have a African American instructor for my just straight up basic like American history from colonization to post Civil War, and he went off on like a political tangent today that made me very happy. But for some of the people in the class, you could tell that his more liberal leanings like made some people uncomfortable.
Yeah, there's a few of those in classes that I had. I took a lot of political science as like my minor at Purdue, and you get a lot of very different opinions, which is cool. I like different opinions, but there was certain things where you had to write like reports or had to talk about like what you actually genuinely felt about stuff, and it didn't affect your grade. It was just you had to present on it. And there's a few things I presented on, and it ruffled some feathers. But there's also people who liked what I was saying. I mean, if you talk about politics, 50 or 100% of the time, 50% of people will disagree with you. So,
especially in a predominantly red state like Indiana,
yeah,
where we both go to school,
yeah,
and particularly a engineering and agriculturally leaning like university,
yeah,
like Purdue, like north central Indiana. It's it might as well be a northern state in the South.
Yeah,
let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it really is. And coming from Chicago, it's way different. Just coming from like the city, just different viewpoints on things, which is cool. Like it's cool to learn about different people and what they think. And I'm not the podcast person, and Ben isn't, and we're not going to ever tell you you're wrong unless you say something hateful, and then I don't like you. But apart from that, you're cool. I like you. Thank you for listening. Yeah, school's cool. Stay in school, kids. If you're not in school, go back to school. Get a master's. If you have a master's, go get a doctorate. If you have a doctorate, good for you. You work really hard.
School.
Yeah, go to space school. We're actually going to talk about that a little bit. But no, if school's not your thing, don't do it, man. I'm not the guy telling you what to do. Actually, I've been looking at grad school stuff. Oh my god, it's but the GRE is good for 5 years after you take it. So you can have it like sitting like on the back burner for 5 years as you do stuff, which is super daunting. And I've been looking at stuff for that. So if anyone out there listening has gone to grad school and has any recommendations for me on where to do grad school for production and business in a film sense, email me or hit me up on Twitter. Thank you. But yeah, so let's get into this, and we're going to just tear the Band-Aid right off on this. Let's talk about the Space Force. So I don't usually talk about our, God damn it, our president, but he wants to start something called the Space Force, and I have a few opinions about the Space Force. We're not talking about the individual himself. I have my own opinions of him, and we're not going to get into that. But Neil deGrasse Tyson apparently brought up the idea of the Space Force during the Bush era, but not as a military power, but as a power of like a branch of NASA to protect us from like asteroids and to do more space research. Because a lot of like R&D can go into that, and if you have a Space Force, you can add a big budget to NASA and looking outside of our planet, because that's where the future of the human race is going to take us, is off planet rather than focusing just here. So in that one aspect, I think Space Force can be positive, but the way that this certain individual is framing Space Force, it is a complete joke. You don't need to have Space Marines. That he's played too much Halo, and that's not a thing we need right now. But putting more money into outer space research, I think, is important. Ben, what do you think?
Coming from an Air Force background, the Air Force as a branch of the military, they are the Space Force. There's a very large, there's an entire command called Space Command that's part of the military as a whole, and they deal with satellites, the possible weaponization of space by foreign adversaries, by us. So like these things already exist in a certain smaller way, like not on the scale that the president and those that are trying to make this happen wanted to. I think that a lot of it just has to do with military contractors maybe pushing this so that money keeps flowing to them. But really, like, as a kind of going off what you said, as a branch of the military, it's not necessary. At all.
No.
There are highly skilled civilians and military members in the military that do this as a living, and just to like kind of shuffle this stuff around is just going to be, it seems like it's going to be a bureaucratic nightmare, a burden on the taxpayers. It's just unnecessary. And I agree with you, like, if they're going to make something happen, put some budget into NASA for them, because they already have the resources. Well, they don't have all the resources they need. That would be a reason why they need the budget, but they have the framework in place to where they could take this and run with it and put it to good use instead of just a colossal waste of money, which a lot of programs in the military already are. And I'm speaking specifically of the F-35 fighter aircraft, which has been a fucking money pit. And I could go on a tangent about that, but we'll stick to space for this one.
Wait, I have a military question for you, since you were, and are you still our military?
Technically, I am considered individual ready reserve, or IRR for short. Basically, how that works is I signed a 6-year contract back in 2011, and I got out after 6 years, but it's not really just a 6-year contract. It is a 8-year contract, 6 of which are active duty, 2 of which put on individual ready reserve in the situation, or in the possibility that, like, say we were to go to a full scale war with a different country, and they would need to recall members of the military.
Oh, what did you go somewhere? Did you serve, like, on tour?
I came very close. I was about 2 months away back in 2015 from all expenses paid trip to the Middle East, but then my appendix decided, I'm going to save you from all that trouble, and I'm going to almost burst on you. Ooh. So I had to go in for emergency appendectomy, which kept me from going out there.
Actually, I know another guy who's in the... Is he Air Force? Yeah. A guy I lived with in L.A., he was Air Force. He just did a 6-month tour in Abu Dhabi. So,
that's the vacation spot for deployments. Like, if you go there, there's some people that have, like, they've been in the shit. They've been to, like, Bagram and all that. And they'll give you shit and say, like, oh, that's not a deployment, that's a vacation. But all in all, it's a deployment. You're away from your family for an extended amount of time. Yeah. Not really war zone, but war zone adjacent.
Yeah.
So, like, it's for people to say, like, oh, you didn't go on deployment. I think that's shitty.
Yeah, you're still serving.
You don't want to, like, negate other people's, one person's deployment or vacation is another person's hell because they're away from their family and on the other side of the earth.
Yeah, and you're kind of there not by choice.
Exactly.
It's not like you're like, hey, I'm going to take 6 months and do some R&R. But yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that. What is the is it a helicopter or a plane? The thing with they're like the propellers that, like, flip down to land. What is that? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, that is technically an aircraft. I am freaking blanking on that name right now. I cannot believe this. I would be shunned out of my old workspace. Let's look that up.
Okay. Ben's gonna do some research.
It's a Marine Corps aircraft is the branch of the military that mainly uses that. Let's look it up.
That's pretty cool. Guys, we're doing some learning today on the podcast. Not that we don't learn every podcast, because this is an educational show, kind of. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, Ben is military, so that's my expertise. But the reason I was saying what I was saying about NASA earlier is because the Air Force used to be a branch of the Army in World War II. It was the Army Air Force, and then it became its own branch. And if you did that with NASA and like a Space Force type thing, that could be, like, positive, and you just give money to them. and because space is important, because we're on a tiny little rock floating through the universe with a universe outside of us. So we should look up instead of down. That's just my thing. But we're going to talk about space and how crazy and mind-boggling it is, because I've been watching a lot of Cosmos lately, and I just want to talk about space on a podcast for a little bit. So, Ben, what is that thing called?
I'm still looking.
Oh,
Damn
okay.
it. Yeah, keep talking.
Yeah,
Kill time.
Ben's going to keep looking up what the space, or not the spaceship, but this helicopter type thing. If you guys know what I'm talking about, there is a military type aircraft that looks like a big helicopter with two sets of blades, but they rotate down and around so it can land, but also fly forward and backwards more successfully than a helicopter. And I think they look really cool, and I just want to know what they're called, because they are super, super cool looking. Sorry, my watch is yelling at me to stand up and move, because apparently I've been sitting too long, according to my watch. But whatever. But yeah, so we're going to talk about space today. So space is pretty cool. I'm fascinated with outer space personally, and if you want to make your mind hurt, I have a little thought exercise experiment for all of you listening. I'm guessing most of you listening don't live in a bunker underground, or if you're listening in the future, I'm sorry that you're living in a bunker underground and can't go outside because of the zombies or whatever has happened to the planet. I'm really sorry. I hope I made it. Hi, future Russell. And hi, future Ben and Emma. But, so, if you are listening to this and you're in the car, you're doing whatever, look up. Now, looking up, I'll wait. Okay, now that you're looking up in the sky, that goes on forever. And that's going to blow your mind. And I want you to think about that for a second. I want you to think that when you look up, that is going on forever. And you're looking into the past, because light moves at a specific speed, and the stars that you're seeing are light years old. So the light you're seeing is really old. And I'll give you a little example of what I'm talking about. So one of the reasons humans on Earth have theorized we have never come into contact with alien life from off of Earth, one of the reasons, we're going to get into a few, is because of light speed. We are theorizing that this other species has not figured out how to go past light speed or all of that. They're kind of like us, but on a different part of the solar system. So what I'm saying is, if you're looking at our planet from 65 million light years away, that would take light 65 million years to reach that distance. Okay, now we have that. If they are looking at our planet 65 million light years away at this very second, what would they be seeing? Ben, what would they see?
They might be seeing the V-22 Osprey. That's what that aircraft is called.
Okay.
Sorry, that was a terrible answer for that.
No. That's a really cool name.
Yeah. But what would they be seeing?
What happened 65 million years ago? There's a big thing that hit our planet and killed a lot of something.
Big-ass rock hit our planet.
Yeah, they'd be seeing a meteor kill all the dinosaurs. So that's why a lot of people theorize that we haven't come in contact with alien life, is because they're looking through the past. So they would be seeing us 65 million years ago, so there wouldn't be much of a reason for them to come here, because it would just be like, oh, it's just some animals. Cool. Whatever.
Yeah, like whatever was on that planet is dead.
Yeah. So that's one theory as to why we haven't come into contact with aliens, is because of light speed. And then there's another one that I heard about. These are not my ideas. These are things that I've read about and listened to. Another one is called the earthworm theory, or it can be called the ant theory. But I believe the astrophysicist who coined the term said it was the earthworm theory, which is when you're walking down the street, do you really pay attention to an earthworm or something that, you see them all the time, or wherever you live, there's something you see, like whether it be worm or maybe like a butterfly. Like, it might catch your eye for a second, but you don't really stop to think about it in your daily routine. That could be like with alien species. If they're sophisticated enough to go through space and visit other planets, we are so primitive here that why would you stop here? There is not much of a purpose. That's another reason.
We're insignificant in their eyes.
Yeah, that's another reason that people theorize that we have not come into contact with alien life, or alien life as we would see it in pop culture. So, Ben, I'll give it to you to say some things.
Yeah, I haven't done a whole lot of deep diving into space theories like that. My interest in space mainly comes from like kind of that childish wonder. Like sometimes I wish I was alive back in a child back in like the 60s when the space race was going on, when it was such a monumental thing to happen that like man was landing on the moon or even just sending people into space. That's like the kind of just, I don't know what we could equate that to today, like to have that sort of equivalent like awe.
I think maybe
of like science and achievement.
I think maybe the Elon Musk SpaceX stuff, if they start doing Mars things, I think that will be this an equivalent thing. Even though we do have rovers on Mars, but if they start sending people there, I think that will be an equal, like, oh my god, like, this is cool. Because I could only imagine what you're talking about, like 1969, Neil Armstrong, Purdue alumni, going on the moon, and that's just, like, so cool. Just to be like, yeah, we did that. We landed on a rock rotating around our ball of lava in the solar system. And somehow through math and science, we figured out how to land essentially a tiny little ship out there without everyone dying, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, just thinking about like you said, the math, science, the physics, everything that went into making that happen, it's phenomenal. It's a damn miracle that it even happened.
Yeah, it is. And it took 3 days roughly from for the ship to leave Earth to get to the moon. And that's a question people have. How long did it take? It took about 3 days to get there. Ish. Yeah. Give or take.
And then to bring them safely back.
Yeah. That's
to
the
Earth
craziest.
Is another even like more possibly, arguably even more daunting, equation to figure out, by having those, figuring out what kind of things you need the capsules to be in order to make it back into the Earth's atmosphere without melting.
Yeah,
because like everything you've seen in TV and movies, like that's what would happen. Like coming back into the atmosphere, you need to have some sort of metal that's going to withstand that kind of heat.
Yeah,
and also to the shock waves like that basically like sending the crew members inside that thing on a paint can mixer, how heavily they're being shook around. That's just, it's crazy to think like some people, men and women, like made this happen with their big ass brains.
Yeah, like the movies like Hidden Figures, about those ladies who work for NASA and who figure all this out. That's one of those stories I'm like, what? Like, how does no one know about this? And like First Man that's coming out, and all the space movies that are like very pro space travel are stories that people may know, but like we should all be taught this in school, like day one. That should be that. Evolution is a thing, and don't kill each other are the three that we should probably be learning as fast as possible, and as many languages as you can fit into a dumb little kid's head. Those are all the things. Like, teach kids 35 languages day one of school, because they'll absorb that shit like no one's business. But yeah, those are my opinions. And if you disagree with them, I don't care, because it's a podcast. I'm allowed to say whatever I want. But yeah, I think that's really nuts. Also, I was thinking about this while you were saying that. Besides the fact that you have to get past the heat, how do you get past the pressure of going back through the atmosphere and the speed? Like, how doesn't a person just like get squished like a bug inside of a space capsule? I don't know science like that. I should have probably taken... No, I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have taken a physics course at Purdue, because I would have failed. Because those are like real. Like, those are legit. But yeah, that's pretty nuts. And we brought a car to the moon. People don't realize that. We brought like a little like golf cart to the moon and drove around. Yeah, and drove around. How do we fit a car in a little space capsule with Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and the third guy? Oh god, what's the third guy's name?
Neil, Buzz Aldrin. Oh shit! No one ever remembers the third guy.
Okay, no, we're gonna look this up, because I don't want to disrespect the third person who was in that flight. Third guy to walk on the moon. Cool. Let's see. What's his name? Did
the third guy actually walk on the moon, or did he stay in the lander?
He actually did. His name is Peter Conrad. The third man to walk on the moon died late He died in 2008, actually. So Buzz Aldrin's the only one who's alive.
And the only one that ever did a voice character, or did a character special character on The Simpsons.
He did. Buzz Aldrin did do a character on The Simpsons, which I find awesome. I can only imagine how Matt Groening got that like confirmation. It's like, oh yeah, Buzz wants to do the show, and like, oh my god, an American hero wants to be on The Simpsons.
In definitely a top 10. Like, I'm pretty sure Deep Space Homer was on both of our.
Oh yeah, it was. The scene with the potato chips is so funny. And where he's like, they have ridges. It's so good. That if you guys don't know what we're talking about, go back to the Simpsons episodes, probably like 15 episodes ago, or just watch the Deep Space Homer Simpsons episode. It's classic. But I think that's pretty nuts. Also, the idea, I just don't know enough about space, but so people talk about going to Mars, right, and living there. I understand the idea of terraforming, where you essentially turn Mars into another version of Earth, or a version of a planet that you can live on and live in their atmosphere without suffocating to death. But when people go into outer space or to the International Space Station, what happens is your bone density drops and your muscles change. And Mars's atmosphere is slightly lighter than ours, so would you just essentially, your body would shift, right? Or am I wrong?
Again, like, I don't know enough about human biology and physics to know exactly if that would happen, but it seems like something along that, like, a degree of that would possibly happen.
Yeah. Also, I have one more thing, and then we'll just get into a full discussion that I'm going to blow people's minds with. So, we're going to talk human evolution and history. So, in long time ago, back in the day, when people were migrating out of Africa through the continent into Asia, a certain group of people went across a land bridge to what is now like Canada and Alaska. But then the seas rose and that land bridge went away. So there was people trapped in the Americas. These people would be known as American natives or Native Americans, the Indians. And these people were trapped here for 10,000 years on this side of the planet. And these people evolved slightly differently because Native Americans and Native American, not just U.S. Americans, but Americas, have a really bad tolerance with alcohol. Like, that's kind of the stereotype, is Native Americans can't handle alcohol because they have really bad addiction issues. That's a real thing. That's an evolutionary thing that happened. And also, with that, if America, or if Christopher Columbus had never come across to the other side of the world for whatever reason, if that never became an issue, and you stayed that way for another 10, 20, 30,000 years, that side of the human tree would have evolved differently, so we would have eventually gotten two different species of human. Which blows, like, your mind that could have happened. Because that happens with, like, bears and, like, horses and a lot of, like, birds. Like, all evolved from, like, one kind of bird, and they change, like dogs. And if you spread that out long enough, you have different species of human, which is kind of cool. But when Christopher Columbus came over, what is something that he picked up from the natives that were like the first cases of this in Europe in 1492 and 1493? What disease? I don't know if this is 100% true, and if there's doctors listening, my parents are listening and they're doctors. I'm not sure if this is 100% true, but I did read this. I actually read it in like the New Yorker, and I feel like that's a pretty reliable source. But this is just what I've read.
I guess all I've ever heard about was the diseases that were brought over to the Native Americans, like smallpox, through, like, you know, those insidious smallpox blankets and all that. So I don't think I've heard of any diseases going back, but I'm interested to know.
The article said syphilis. Yeah, I don't know if that's 100% true, and if I'm wrong, I will fully state the fact that I am wrong, but in the article it said syphilis, the first recorded cases of syphilis were in 1493 after Columbus came back. That could just be a complete coincidence, but a lot of people think it's because of that, that they brought this over.
Serves the asshole right. He was a terrible, terrible human being.
Oh my god, he is the worst person, and he like swindled and scammed the natives out of their food and land and everything, and was just a real bad person. I'm not a Christopher Columbus fan, even though I do understand how beneficial that is for the human race, that what happened. But yeah, I'm more of a Leif Erikson guy. If you guys don't know who Leif Erikson is, look it up. I'm not going to explain that. This isn't history class. But yeah, that's just something really crazy that kind of blew my mind. I was listening to on a podcast, and they were talking about it, and I thought I'd share it here. But yeah, let's talk about space. Ben, what are some of your theories about space?
Kind of the real basic one, like probably a lot of people were asking, is there life out there? Is there extraterrestrial life? I think it's like an unequivocal yes.
Obviously,
there just has to be. And not even if it's not even in our galaxy, just somewhere out there. We are not the only things out there.
Yeah, I think it's dumb to think we are, because here's my question for you, because I don't have an answer. Okay, as we know from science, life doesn't come from nothing. You can't have nothing and make something. There's a step there, right? And our planet is essentially a giant ball of lava that we live on, and life had to start here somehow. What caused our life to start here? Do you think it was an outside influence, like an asteroid with like bacteria that started life? Or what do you think caused that to happen?
The best way I guess I can answer is just like this, a small little like cell or amoeba or something that like was in like the primordial ooze that was Earth. It just kind of started to like, I don't have the most scientific way of saying this, but the events happened. All of the sheer luck events happened to where it had the capacity to multiply, and it just went from there.
Yeah, I believe that as well. I know a lot of people genuinely believe that life came in kind of like on an asteroid, like you see in sci-fi, and our life on Earth is from another planet. And we just evolved in a completely different way through like bacteria and famous Jurassic Park line, life has a way. And yeah, I think that's really cool. There was another theory that Neil deGrasse Tyson, my boy, theorized, and I wanna debate this with you. So people talk about the Big Bang as the beginning of the universe, which it is. That is how the universe started, is with a Big Bang. And whatever you want to believe, the reason that started, if you want to believe it's God or science or whatever, I'm not here to judge. But Neil deGrasse Tyson said that in a black hole, we don't know what's in there, but it like bends space-time and it like bends the laws of physics. So an entire universe, not a solar system, an entire universe can live in a black hole. Because it warps the way, like in Harry Potter, like you can have a book, like a briefcase that holds an entire world in it. That's essentially like what a black hole is. Same kind of thing that we think, but that means our whole universe could have started with the Big Bang, which means that could have been a black hole of another universe. So our universe could be in a black hole of a different universe, and it's like a chain. So the black holes in our universe, there could be other universes inside of that, in theory. But yeah.
Oh yeah, like it's funny. You can put like in theory behind any like wild ass speculative statement, and it kind of just makes it like, well, it could be, without making you sound completely batshit insane. Not to say that that's what yours was.
Yeah.
I just think like some people like will say some stupid ass things and be like, in theory, like whose theory? Yours.
But
like technically, like in theory, like we could have entire ecosystem. Well, we do have kind of entire ecosystems living on our body in the form of like germs and bacteria. Like you think like what kind of possible universe, I guess, like could be living in our saliva or in our skin cells. And it's just like, are we part of? Everybody start taking a hit off your joint right now.
Yeah.
Are we part of like this universe that's living on a bigger creature, which we consider our universe?
Yeah, that's like really interesting. Like there's like 100 trillion different pieces of like DNA material that have like these tiny little bits to them. I know this is the most non-scientific thing, but like what you're saying is our entire universe could essentially be that on a bigger scale, and we're just part of the DNA of a bigger creature in a bigger universe, in a bigger creature in a bigger universe. Which, yeah. Also, if you don't believe in the moon landing, if anyone here is listening and you're a flat earther or you don't believe in the moon landing, you're wrong. Like, you actually are wrong, scientifically speaking. And if you think Stanley Kubrick did the moon landing, I think he's a great director. No, there's a bunch of scientists who did this. You're an idiot and you're wrong. I'm sorry. I don't hate you, but you're wrong. Sorry, I had to get that off my chest because I was going to say it earlier, and I'm like, I have to say this, that these idiots are wrong. The world is... Actually, it's not completely a circle. It's more of like an oval shape, but whatever. But yeah, here's my thing. I want to see what you think about this. Someone theorized, I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson, but he might be theorizing someone else's idea, and then it comes down to me, so get at me, Neil deGrasse Tyson. You're the best. If humans went to Mars and went out into the solar system, say like Star Wars, right? And you go and you make a space empire, and you go far enough apart from each other, the reason humans are all very similar right now is because we're stuck on a little marble and we're all inbreeding with each other, right? But if you send colonies of people off, they're going to evolve separately. In theory, you could get different species of humans that are wildly different, creating alien life. Like, if you did that, like, a billion years in the future, you'd have, like, technically you'd all be the same genetic ancestors, which would be us, but some people could have extra fingers or extra arms in a billion years. Like, you don't know what evolution can do. Evolution's crazy. But yeah, that's like a crazy thing. Like, what do you think would happen if humans were able to colonize other planets? What do you think would happen? So say Elon Musk gets us to Mars and NASA gets us to Mars and we like start to actually do stuff there. What do you think the next steps are from that point?
I think the major steps would take, possibly thousands or millions of years to like happen, kind of like how human evolution on Earth took place. I think unless we sort of did like the terraforming thing to make other planets more Earth-like, our bodies would over a long, long time, evolve to, or, if the capacity to evolve to that, planet existed, we would evolve to survive on that planet as is. But I think there's planets out there to where we, obviously someone's not going to be able to just like take their space helmet off and just start
breathing,
procreating, and it's going to start creating space babies. But like some sort of evolutionary change would take place to where we would be more,
adept,
adept to live in that environment.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. What do you think would happen if a Earth human and say 150,000 generations from now, an Earth human tried to mate with a Mars human? Do you think it would not work?
I think
Or would it be like a mule, like a horse and a donkey are different but similar enough that you can have a baby, but that baby's sterile? Do you think that would happen?
It depends on the type of physiological changes that would have taken place for the Mars human, if any did happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if there would be enough change for there to be any sort of significant
birth things.
outward looking appearance difference for that sort of mixed Earth Mars baby.
Yeah. Definitely. I do agree with that. But it'd be interesting to be able... That's the one reason I would like to be able to pick how long I live for. Like, if you have the ability to live as long as you want to live. Like, if you can be like, no, I'm going to just keep living. Like, cancer doesn't affect me or aging. So if you could stay 35 forever, I think that's the main purpose, to see where the human race would go. Like, if you were essentially... I agree with that, yeah. Like, if you could breathe in outer space and you were invincible, like Superman kind of level, and you could just travel out into space for 100 billion light years and it wouldn't affect you, I would love to do that and just explore. I think that would be like the one thing I would want. And, I mean, personally, I'm not going to try to get religious here. I do believe in a heaven. I think that would be my one thing. If you can wish for something in heaven, is the ability to see the future. That's, like, the one thing I would want. If you have, like... If that's a thing in heaven, if like St. Peter's like, hey dude, or whatever you believe in, if Vishnu or Buddha or Muhammad, whatever you believe in, is like, hey, you get one like ability or wish here, I would be like, can you send me back at my own choice to see the future? That would be like my one thing. That's like my one wish, is to be able to do that. But yeah, also something that'll blow your minds. Everything on planet Earth has never weighed more or less, because all the things that we've built here and all the humans here are made from matter from our planet. So Earth has always been the same weight unless a meteor hits. But the first time humans have ever made the Earth weigh more is when we brought back rocks from the moon. We increased Earth's weight by just a little bit.
And fucked everything up.
Yep, that's the down point. That was the bell curve. That's where you hit the apex. It's all been downhill from the moment we landed on the moon.
That butterfly effect of bringing one speck of dust from the moon,
yeah,
we screwed everything up, and now we are living in the dark times.
Yep. I actually stole a rock from Hawaii from a volcano, and apparently that's bad luck, so I have to bring that rock back. But I did that in like 2006. So maybe I could be a billionaire now if I didn't do that. So who knows, guys? Or maybe this podcast would be like the Mark Maron WTF podcast. You never know. Just been bad luck ever since 2007. But yeah, I really like that. What do you think of like Star Trek and Star Wars as properties, and thinking of them in a sci-fi sense? Like, what is your favorite sci-fi property out of those two in the lens? Not like what do you think is a better property? In the lens of better storytelling, and like better as in it's more of a realistic, like neither of them are realistic. There's aliens and spaceships. What do you think is a more realistic property, noting that Star Wars is technically in the past, but it's like future technology on Earth from the past. But what do you think is a better property? And people will get pissed at this answer and write me hate mail, but I don't care.
I think if we're looking at like a more realistic, like viewpoint of both properties, I think that Star Trek has the upper hand with that, because it doesn't rely on like sort of the supernatural, like the Force in Star Wars, because that's kind of like the main driver of a lot of the main stories for Star Wars. And Star Wars Trek, back when it originally started back in the 60s, I believe, it was more like, just hard sci-fi, philosophically based. There was a lot of thinking that actually went into the show. And I never got too into Star Trek. So yeah, I'll put that out there as a caveat. Like, I do prefer Star Wars as a better version of entertainment. Yes. But I do see the value in Star Trek, and I do see that why people would prefer that.
Yeah, I agree with you on some points. I actually watched most of the old Star Trek TV show on like MeTV, if you know what that is. My dad and mom were big into Star Trek, and like when I was like 6, we always watched Star Trek like almost every night. So I've seen a lot of those old episodes, and I think I saw Star Wars before I saw that. Maybe not. I don't know. But I think Star Wars on a pop culture level, yes, is much more successful. But I'm going to say something that's going to stir feathers, and Ben, you can argue with me. I think the Star Trek reboots with like Chris Pine, the J.J. Abrams ones, are better than the Star Wars reboots, not the prequels, the like Force Awakens ones. I think they are better films.
I guess I'm indifferent towards the newer J.J. Abrams and Chris Pine Star Trek franchise. I thought they were entertaining, but just as like a one-off, like, okay, that was a good movie, but I'm not really interested in sitting down with it again. Yeah. Okay. So that's my viewpoint. Like, that was a good movie, but moving on.
Yeah. Okay.
That's how I feel about it.
No, definitely. I can totally see that. A lot of people, I think, agree with you on that. But I really genuinely like those movies. I think they're... people are just going to get pissed. But, I mean, Star Wars is incredible, and it's a phenomenon, and people, like, will live and die Star Wars. And same with Star Trek fans. Like, Trekkies are ridiculous as well. I have a few friends who are, like, they have Star Trek tattoos. So, they're Trekkies. And they can speak, like, Klingon kind of thing. Which... I mean, good for them. Like, I know 2 guys who can speak Klingon, and that's awesome. I think you should put that on a resume. I don't know how far it'll get you, but you can put it on a resume.
That's like that'd be like you trying to learn like Tolkien's
like learning
Hobbit language and stuff like that.
Learning that in like Elvish. I think that's so cool when people actually can do that fully and speak to other people who know the language. I think that's so cool. I think that's like sci-fi and like fantasy at its greatest, when it changes people and you can speak a different language through it. That other people can conjugate and actually, like, who you've never met can speak it to you. But I think, yeah, Star Trek is more realistic. It is more of a realistic world because it's essentially like a government ship. It's like the same thing as when we had like ships on the seas, and we're like, hey, you have to do this expedition and voyage. You may not come back alive. Bring back some cool shit. And that's
Star Trek is what Donald Trump envisions the Space Force to, but he's just too fucking stupid to realize that that's a lot of that is like not real life.
Yeah,
he's just thinking like pew 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 in space, and
he wants laser guns. Yeah, that's all he wants. He wants laser guns in space, and oh god. But yeah, okay. What do you think? Have you seen the movie Arrival?
Yes, with Amy Adams.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. If that happened on Earth, say tomorrow, what do you think would happen? And
okay,
they're not necessarily aggressive.
So the premise, are we going with the same exact premise as in like those pods land on different parts of the world?
Yeah,
or
so
just America?
They'd land all over the world, and let's say one in America and one in New Zealand and one in like Ghana open up, and they like just open up so you can go in there, but they're not necessarily aggressive, but they have the capability of, so it's not Independence Day. So they're not necessarily coming here to be aggressive, and I'm not going to spoil Arrival for you, but they don't attack humans. But in theory, they could. So like these giant ships land here. What do you think would happen to our planet? Like, what do you think people would do?
I think a lot of just the general, like, working class folks and like us would, I think the majority of us would freak out.
Yes.
Maybe not in like a rioting and looting and plundering everything, but just like we've shown so many negative like scenarios that I think a lot of people would think Independence Day or Mars Attacks or something like that.
I love that you referenced Mars Attacks, but okay.
I love that movie. It's so funny.
Yeah.
But I think from the government standpoint, with our current leader, he's a wild card to know what we would do from like a military or government decision standpoint. It's who knows.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really say the reaction of other countries' peoples, because different cultures, different mindsets. Some people would probably, if there's societies that really haven't yes, Mars Day. If there's societies that haven't enamored themselves with like pop culture like America and the West has, I'm certain that some of them would consider the visitors like godlike.
Yes. I think there's a really funny scene. I think it's in the Simpsons movie. It's where all the people in the church and all the people in the bar flip.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would happen. Churches would have a very big revitalization very quickly. Because I think people, like you said, would think they're gods, or people would be like, oh God, I need to go to church and confess all of my sins if this is the last day I'm alive.
There was it wasn't a very popular movie, but it was a Simon Pegg and Nick Frost movie called Pat that had Seth Rogen as the voice of like this alien.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And it posed a really interesting sort of question that it was like, well, I'm here. Like at the alien Pat, it was like she is talking to this Kristen Wiig's character who was like this religious nut. And it was like, well, I'm here. You see me clearly. Like, doesn't this disprove everything you believe?
Uh-huh.
And that's the kind of thing, like, I'm wondering, like, if many people would have that sort of critical thinking ability to think like, okay, this is extraterrestrial life, and start to question everything, or if they would just kind of use that as like a sign to like kind of really buckle down with their religion and be like, oh, this is the end times.
Yeah, I that's a really good point. I'll get into it a little bit because I'm sure people are wondering a little. So I'll say it here on the podcast because I don't care what you think. So I genuinely, here's my thought on the premise, 100% no filter. I believe in a God, but I believe it's one of those God snapped his fingers for the Big Bang and sat back and let everything else happen. That is my 100% full belief that he was sitting up in the clouds or in nothingness and was like, and then...
Thanos.
Yeah,
you believe in Thanos.
Essentially, and then just sat back and let everything happen and has just kind of watched it play out and maybe intervened 2 or 3 times in history. That's about it. And maybe intervened so he's like, I need life to happen here, I need life to happen here, I need this to happen, but then done nothing else. It's kind of as if you had a pet, like fish. You occasionally change around the terrarium, or the aquarium rather, and you feed it kind of thing, but other than that, you don't mess with it. You kind of let it live. And that's my full belief. And I mean, if people disagree, that you can disagree, whatever, but that is what I believe. And I think a lot of people who believe that kind of thing would just be like reaffirmed. You're like, oh, okay, yeah. But then other people would definitely become atheist, or people would then double down on the religious thing, like you said, and just kind of get fanatical.
Yeah, I like your kind of philosophy on religion. It's different than a lot of people would probably have. And since you went full candid camera disclosure on this, I'll do mine as well. I'm an atheist. Okay. I kind of lean agnostically.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe there's a God, but I'm open to the concept. Like, I don't know. There's no way of me knowing. I just personally don't really think there is.
Okay.
But yeah, I think like if there is the deity to like be held responsible for the creation of all of this, I think it would fit more of the mold that you said.
Yeah.
Like one that's not like a organized religion's concept of God. It would just be like something that created us and just like, okay, let's see how this goes.
Yeah, I personally...
And I think a reason why many people probably don't buy into that is it doesn't have much of a purpose.
Yes.
Like a lot of organized religions, like they need like that, why are we doing this? Like, why are we here? And, for Christianity, it's, to praise Jesus Christ as the, Son of God.
Yeah.
And, for all the other Abrahamic religions that are just slightly different than that. There's like kind of a purpose, and it's purpose driven as a religion. But for this, I think the fact that if people were just to find out that was how it actually was, some people would be disappointed because they would feel like, what's the point?
Yeah, I totally see that. I think it just, if we're going to get into that side of it, because when you talk space and evolution and everything, this kind of comes up as a topic. I genuinely really do think, like, I think everyone wants to think of their creator, their deity as like whatever it is. Like for like, if you're Hindu, you believe in like Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu, that whole thing. If you're like Abrahamic religion, you believe in that. And if you're something else, you believe in that creature or that physical thing. But in my opinion, it's probably just a big floating light orb kind of thing that creates and destroys. I think that's basically, if you've ever seen the movie Green Lantern, where they have Galactus as just a big cloud, I think it's probably something like that. And then when you die, you go there, or maybe reincarnate and you just become something else. But I do believe in some sort of afterlife of some sort. I don't really know. I would like to think there's a heaven of some sort. If you're not a dick, something cool happens. I think that would be really cool, and that's why I do believe. But if you're looking at it realistically, it's probably just a big floating orb of some kind. Maybe it takes the form of what you want it to take the form of. It's like it'll mimic what you want it to mimic. But I think there's too much of a coincidence if you're looking at just like humans. Like if you look at Native Americans and people who are like on these secluded islands, and people from like China, India, the Middle East, they all have similar creation stories, and that seems like too much of a coincidence. I feel like there has to be something there. If I'm going to be honest, there's something. I don't know what that thing is, but there's definitely something to it, and maybe we all have a little piece of the puzzle. And maybe even Scientologists have a piece of the puzzle. I don't know. And there's just something out there doing stuff, and it just kind of sat back and let the rest play out and intervened. But if there is other life out there, that'd be my first question: is do you believe in something, or do you not? That'd be my first question for aliens. If you can communicate, do you believe in a creator? It would be my first question. I know that's like
if they would even like understand that concept, like
yeah,
because like we get like the concept of religion and a deity, but like they might be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like a creator? Like we created each other like through procreation.
Yeah.
Like they might not get the concept of this like supernatural or otherworldly being being responsible for everything.
Or it'd be interesting to be like, oh no, that's definitely a real thing, and we have like this actual proof. Like there's a really funny scene in Rick and Morty. I'm not a huge fan, but there's one, and it's like one of those episodes where like Rick goes into Morty's mind and goes through all of his memories, and there's one where there's this alien, and he's like the greatest hunter in the universe, like the Predator. And he's like, I need Rick to kill me because if I die in battle from a better warrior, I get to go to the afterlife. And then Morty, being kind of a nihilist, is like, how do you have proof? And the guy's like, what? And then he somehow dies a different way. Then the afterlife happens and you see his like soul go to hell. And Morty's like, oh my God. And Rick's like, yeah, that's why you don't question it, dude. You just kind of go with the flow. And I think that's a really funny way to look at it, just in the most like comical way. You're like, sometimes you just don't question it. You're just like, okay, cool, that's fine. You believe what you want to believe, and we'll play it from there. But with outer space, I think there's just too many coincidences for it to be nothing. But yeah, that's just me. I mean, that was my little spiel on it. If people disagree with that or don't like that opinion, dude, that's cool. And if you like the opinion, that's cool. Because I've gotten some hate mail from stuff. Not like hate mail, but people being like, you're an idiot. I mean, you're allowed to think I'm an idiot. That's a free country, dude. Whatever.
From this show specifically?
Dude, I have actually gotten hate mail from people, like, at the email. I'm not kidding. For real. I think one episode I should read out hate mail and read out the person's email address. I think that'd be really funny. Or
I don't know about that.
No, but not that part. And be like, this is from Mark from, like, whatever state. This is what you said to me. And here's my direct reply to you. Like, I'm talking to you, buddy. And, like, just kind of do it comically. But, I mean, if people don't like what I'm about, you don't have to listen. No one's forcing you to. But if you like what it's about, listen more. But, yeah, what do you think? Okay, this is... So, you know Lightspeed? What do you think about the Galactic Empire in Star Wars? How the hell would they communicate with each other from across the universe?
I think about that the same way I think about Princess Leia Supermaning back into the spaceship after she got sucked into space in The Last Jedi. Like, I just stopped questioning that kind of stuff. Like, it just is what it is. The same way that in the exact same thing, the movie, at the first sort of big action sequence in the movie where they're dropping bombs.
Yeah.
From a physics standpoint, that could not happen. Doesn't make sense, but it was still entertaining. I don't question that because this is a franchise based off of superpowers of the mind and the Force, and it's just like some of these asswipes that like complained about The Last Jedi. Yeah. They're like, oh no, that wouldn't happen. Like the laser beams are arcing through space. Like you're watching a movie about space wizards and the Force. Like, don't think into this. Yeah, exactly. And I hate when people talk about Star Wars. Like, I joked about it. I did a review for Star Wars as one of the first episodes, and I joked about where people are like, no, there's no explosions in outer space because that can't happen. It's like, dude, shut the hell up. Like the movie Gravity is equally fictional as Star Wars. There's so many things in that movie that also don't work, but people give that movie kind of a pass because it seems real. Like, dude, if you've never been to space, you don't know most of it. And even if you interview astronauts and watch footage, it's a movie. You have to suspend your disbelief. And it's not a documentary. You're not watching found footage. So, like, chill out. And there can be, in the Star Wars universe, you can have gravity in outer space and lasers and whatever. Like, if you're believing that there are laser swords that can cut through things and people who can levitate things and little green aliens, why don't you believe the fact that there's explosions in space? Why is that your thing? That's, like, my biggest one. Like,
and people in like the Marvel movies are cool with the Guardians of the Galaxy, but then they're like, well, why would Rocket Raccoon do this? Dude, it's a raccoon.
Talking raccoon.
Yeah, like
at that point, you should just suspend all disbelief.
Yeah, that's
take it as it is. I mean, there's things to be said about storytelling or technicalities technical movie making, which you can critique at your leisure. But when you're talking about things that are built in to the lore, into like the universe in which these stories are existing, give it a rest.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Okay, here's my next question. If Elon Musk called you right now and Elon Musk had the ability to fly people to Mars, or there was like a small colony there and was like, Ben, here is a ticket there, potentially a ticket back, would you go? Like, you can bring your family, would you go?
I would say probably not, because he said potentially a ticket back. I need that guarantee.
So let's say Elon Musk calls you tomorrow, which I'm dating this episode would be September 20th, whatever year we're recording this. So he calls you and he's like, Ben, I have a ticket there. We are developing a way back, but you will be the first to get back. And he's like, we'll have the development in progress and it'll be ready in 3 years. And he's pretty successful. Like, we'll do test flights, but you will be able to get back at the least 5 years. So you'd have to be there for 5 years. And then, like, there's other kids there, so, like, your kids can get education and stuff. And you're not just on a barren wasteland. There's, like, a small space station and a community there.
Oh, so there's a colony there.
Yeah, it's probably, let's say, 200 or 300 people. And there are, like, kids there. And there is some sort of infrastructure set up. And let's say, because you were in the Air Force, he wants you for whatever reason. Would you go? You're not getting paid, but your house will be, like, the government will watch your house and your stuff, so you won't, like, be in, like, foreclosure when you get home.
With all that being said, with all those caveats, I'd say probably yeah.
I think I would too. I think if someone said that to me, like, hey, you can go, you can come back, and we'll, like, put your life here on hold, and everyone will know you're on Mars. Like, it's not like you died. But it's not going to be, like, on the news. Like, it's kind of going to be not, like, super undercover, but you can tell your friends and family and put it on Facebook or whatever. But you'll be back in 5 years. But you won't be able to, like, talk to Earth the same way because there's light speed differences. Like, you can, like, do a video call, but it won't be the same. Like, there will be latency there. So you can't FaceTime.
Yeah, it's not going to get there for a while.
But you can, like, write back, almost like if you were, like, in the olden times when you had to send letters and it would take a month to get home. Because I think Mars, light years-wise, I think is, like, 15 light minutes away. So there's a 15-minute light speed lag. So you could kind of compensate with it like a walkie-talkie, but that's the only way you can talk to home. Would you still?
Yeah, I think I would. As long as my family could go and we were like within a general degree of like certainty that we would be not like in danger while we were there. Like obviously, there's always that bit of uncertainty about the travel there and about getting a spacecraft out of the Earth's atmosphere, obviously, but I think I would take the risk.
Yeah, it's like a science colony, so everyone there has been like screened, and people aren't like sociopaths who are there. It's like it's kind of one of those like the best of the best 300 people, and they need people of all different walks of life to kind of go there to make a little version of our planet. But the most dangerous thing you will face is going there and coming back. But you will be able to come back 100% guaranteed. It may just take a while.
Yeah, I can almost see Elon Musk emerging as this supervillain, and he sends 200 people to Mars on a colony as like this outer space version of like the most dangerous game, and he just hunts us all.
Yeah, he's
just for the hell of it.
He's there riding around in the new Tesla Roadster going 500 miles an hour with just like a Mad Max vehicle. He just has a dude on the top of it playing a guitar with fire.
You can't have fire in space.
Oh God, I hate that. There's a Joe Rogan joke that was really funny. He's very like he thinks the whole space thing is cool, but the idea of going to Mars is crazy. His joke is when people are like, I want to go to Mars, he's like, I'll drive you out to Death Valley in California and leave you there for 15 minutes. And then you're like, no, I kind of want to go back to civilization. He's like, exactly. Get back in the car. We're going to go hang out. I feel like
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Like, at this point, like, what the hell is there to do up there?
I mean, you could have every episode of The Simpsons. It'll take you a month to get through. You can, like, they'll have, like, movies up there. Like, movies that get released on Earth will get shipped to Mars. So it's like if you're, like, in Antarctica. Like, what do you do there? Look at penguins? I don't know.
Try not to get taken over by an alien, like in The Thing.
Yeah, oh my god. That movie, okay. What if aliens were like that? I think I'd be done. I would just kill myself. If that was, like, the premise, like, people were like, oh yeah, this happens, I'd be like, nope, I'm done.
Like, I would hope it would stick to Antarctica and not anywhere near the continental U.S. or any other civilized place.
Yeah, if that was, like, an outbreak, like, kind of like the Ebola thing, they're like, oh yeah, there's this alien and we'll destroy you. I'm like, yep, I'm done. I'm not even going to take the risk.
Yeah, that'd be nuts. What's your favorite space-based, like, entertainment property?
My favorite space-based entertainment property, apart from, like, Star Wars and Star Trek that we talked about,
sure,
right this second is a game. I'm not a big gamer, guys. I don't have an Xbox or a PS4 or anything, but I do have a computer. Is a game called No Man's Sky.
Okay, yeah.
It had an update. I got it a while ago, but now it has an update where you can play with friends, and there's, like, third person, and you can do, like, terraforming. But in the game, there is, like, 18 quadrillion planets, and they're all different, and you can just fly to each planet, and you can warp there. And I think space-based games, it is the coolest because it makes you feel like that big emptiness of outer space and what it would actually be like to have to, like, do this. And you have to do, like, there's, like, missions where you have to get stuff, like, get different, like, molecules. But the whole idea of you have to go to a trading post to get stuff, you can't just have it come to you. And you can build a little, like, base, but still there's this isolation to it, which I really love. Also, I love the movie Alien, but that's kind of a different thing. But I think that game is really cool in a realistic kind of sci-fi sense, where it's just sort of like, yeah, you're on this planet and you have a spacesuit and you can get these tools, but you have to, like, kind of craft things. So you have to get carbon, but then you have to turn the carbon into steel, and then you have to turn the steel into something else, and you have to turn that into something else. And I think it's really cool, that whole building blocks thing, because that's what you'd probably have to do on Mars. You're like, okay, we have a lot of, like, iron. What the hell do we do with all this? Yeah. I think Mars would turn into, like a mine. You would mine it for everything it's worth. I think that's what people are going to try to do.
It'd be a mining colony.
I think it'd be like a mining colony, or, like, big business like Exxon would go there and be like, instead of oil, we have whatever, like, molecules on Mars that you can use for power. They would just mine it.
Unobtainium.
Yeah, it'd be unobtainium with blue people. Okay, I have a question. You know how they have sex with their hair?
Mm-hmm.
You know they connect their hair to those dragons they ride. Are they having sex with that dragon?
I mean, essentially, if that's... Well, I guess you could all... It's probably like a sexual organ, but also, like, kind of how... All right, we're getting into human anatomy here, ladies and gentlemen. How a male penis can be used both for waste excretion as well as sexual reproduction.
But that'd be
so
like...
it's probably like... It's probably kind of like that thing where, like, it can be used for intercourse and procreation, but also, like, mind melding with other animals.
So I could
just a fine line.
Yeah, so I could start my car with my dick.
Yeah.
That'd be actually... Yeah, right? That'd be kind of, in a weird way, very useful. No one could steal your car then. But being an Uber driver would be very weird.
Yeah, or when it's dead of winter in those windy Chicago mornings... where you have to, like, start your car to get it warmed up. You gotta whip it out, and it's gonna get cold.
Yeah, it's gonna get cold, and your car's not gonna go very fast, and you're gonna be late for work a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, if you're living somewhere warm, you're in luck. You're always gonna be early to work or on time. If you're in Chicago or, like, Indiana or, like, Boston, give yourself another 30 minutes there. You better go out prepped, if you know what I mean. Why did we just go to there? How do we go to starting your dick with your car? Start your car with your dick from Avatar.
Just like the outer reaches of space, you never know where you're going to go or what you're going to find.
I think that'd be a really good theft prevention system. Like, if that's how you have to open up your house, you know, like how you have your smartphone with your fingerprint? Boom. Face ID, you can eat your heart out. You have dick ID, no one's stealing your shit, ever. You can't replicate that. But actually, you can do your fingerprint sensor with the tip of your dick.
Tell me you've tried this.
Not that I've tried. It is a real thing, though. It is real. And you can do it with a dog's nose. So anything with that specific like pattern that a fingerprint sensor somehow can read, you can start with. So you can start with the tip of your dick. So for all of you out there who are listening and you're thinking about this, if you don't have all 5 of the presets on your Touch ID done, give it a shot. Let's write in. I want to know what you think. Because I'm not going to do it because I'll have to unlock my phone at the gym, and that's going to be an awkward time for everybody. Or if you're on a date, you know what? Whatever. I'm not going too far into that rabbit hole. But yeah, I have one other big space question. Okay, if you 1 sec, wait. Let me see how to phrase this. Okay. If you knew, everything about space, if there was some sort of thing that told you everything about space, like the Big Bang, if there's a creator, all of this stuff, what would you do with that information? And if someone was like, yes, there is life out there, and it's here, this is how you would get to it, and all of these answers that humans have, this, yes, there is an afterlife, there is this, there are aliens, this is how the universe starts, this is how the universe will eventually end, or whatever. What would you do with the information?
The greedy capitalist side of me would be like, how can I profit off of this information? But other than that, I don't know if I would let that information get out of anyone but me.
Yeah, I don't,
because I wouldn't want people to use it in an evil way.
Yep.
I don't know what evil way that would be. I certainly don't think I would want to give it to the government.
No, they would.
I don't want them to go and fuck it up.
Yeah, they would use it in the worst way possible. Maybe not intentionally, but they would instantly fuck all of that so quickly. Because if you had proof somehow that there was God for certain, something horrible would happen. I think that'd be the biggest. People would use that as a weapon.
And also, depending on what form of God you say is real, there's going to be people that say, no, that's not the true God, and they would call you a heretic and fucking try and kill you, something like that.
Yeah, if someone told me that, I would probably. You know what I would do? I'd probably keep it to myself for quite a while, or write it down. And somehow have the proof, if they gave you proof of it as well in photograph form or DNA form, and I'd save it until after I die. And I would
just let someone else deal with it.
Yeah, have you ever seen the movie Watchmen?
Yes.
Okay, when in the comic, after Rorschach dies, the whole book is his journal. Just give the journal out, just put it somewhere, wait for someone to find it, and let them handle the situation. Because I would on the podcast totally say something and be like, oh yeah, it's this and this, and just leave it nonchalantly. And tell people very publicly, but not tell them what I'm saying. You know what I mean? You give them the answer, but you do it in the most casual way that people are just oh, that's funny. But you put it out there.
Speaking of Watchmen, what do you think of the movie? Have you seen the movie and have you read the comic?
I have read the comic. It is one of my favorite books. I love Watchmen so much. A lot of people hate that movie. I really like the movie.
So did I.
Yeah, the ending is different, but the ending is different for a reason, because the giant squid thing you could not do in a movie. People would think it's silly.
Yeah.
And they got rid of the ship thing where the kid is reading the comic book. But if you have the extended edition of the movie, they add that in. So if you...
I don't understand the hate that movie got.
No.
I really don't. I think it came in this line of people didn't like Zack Snyder's movies.
Yeah.
Which, had that movie come out after his DC stint, possibly, I can see that. But I think I really like Watchmen, and I was very glad at the end when they did keep that Rorschach's diary going to the press thing. I didn't think they would keep that in. But they did. I was like, oh yes.
I think people didn't like it because it was nearly a direct adaptation of the comic book. I think people didn't like it for that purpose because I think the comic book, I mean, it's in the Time magazine best 100 novels of all time. I think with that they kept everything basically the same, except Ozymandias is clearly the bad guy from the beginning, and Dr. Manhattan builds essentially an accidental bomb instead of them genetically engineering a big squid. But I think people just didn't like it for that reason, because it was kind of before the whole superhero craze, and if that movie came out now, after Batman v Superman, after the Avengers, people go crazy. They'd be like, oh my god, this movie's like a tour de force. It like takes everything about superheroes and flips it. I think it just came out at the wrong time.
The HBO is developing a series.
Yeah, they are. I think that's going to be good. I think HBO has something up their sleeve. Because they know
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I want to see who they... I really want to know. They have to have like an idea of who they want to cast for each character. I really want to know, especially for like Rorschach and the comedian. Because they were played so well by Harry Dean Stanton and what's his name? Jackie Earle Haley.
Yeah, Jackie Earle Haley, who was the he was not Freddy Krueger. He was
he was Freddy.
Oh, he was Freddy. Yeah,
reboot.
Yeah, and he's a super good actor. I think. Okay, we're gonna get into this as our one of our last things. Who would you cast right now as the new Watchmen? You can't use any of the old cast.
Okay.
And you can if the character's white, you can cast a black guy or whatever. You just can't change gender. So if it's a female character, you have to stay female.
I might need a minute to think about this.
I have a few. So for Silk Spectre's mom, the original Silk Spectre, Meryl Streep.
She's in everything. She does good in everything. It could work.
I would do her. For the original Night Owl, I would do Christopher Plummer.
Okay.
Like big actors.
Yeah.
For Ozymandias, I think he's one of the biggest ones. You have to have someone really compelling. You know who I would do? I would do Christian Bale.
Okay. I think I made a mistake on a casting thing. Oh God, I said Harry Dean Stanton.
It's Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
What's that?
It's Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Yeah, Harry Dean Stanton's way old and way dead now.
Yeah. It's Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who's the guy with the baseball bat from Walking Dead, the show that I never watched.
Yeah. I know there was a Dean in there.
Yeah, he's in that, and he's like in a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, he's the Walking Dead baseball bat guy. Which is also a very good comic book that I've read the first 6 issues of, and then dropped off because there's 100 million issues, and it was way too daunting for me. But I have the compendium. It's actually behind me on that bookshelf. Who else? Who would you cast for let's say Night Owl, who's arguably the main character?
First thing that comes to mind, and it's not right at all for him, is Nicolas Cage.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Because if you think back in Kick-Ass,
yeah,
his outfit looks exactly like Night Owl's.
Yeah, Big Daddy looks exactly like Night Owl, and I think they did that on purpose. That's why I think that. And the guy who drew and wrote that was a big Watchmen fan. The guy who wrote Kick-Ass. So I think, that's there on purpose. I think he would be good. For Silk Spectre, who is a good Silk Spectre now? Because the girl they had do Silk Spectre was perfect, actually.
Yeah. What was her name? I saw her. I went to a live taping of Conan, and she was one of the guests there.
Oh, cool.
What the fart was her name? I can't think of it.
I think a really good person for her would be Olivia Munn.
Okay.
I think
I can see that. My thought, and you're not going to like this.
Okay.
Was Jennifer Lawrence.
You know what? I thought you were going to say that, and I could definitely see it. Her and what's the girl? Sophie Turner. She's in Game of Thrones. She plays Sansa.
Yeah.
She would be good. But I think she's too young. That girl, she's only like 21, and Silk
Yeah,
Spectre.
like a 30s, possibly 40s.
Yeah, because she's supposed to be older. They're all kind of washed out.
Yeah.
Who would
Though,
be?
I guess that wouldn't work for Jennifer Lawrence because she's only like 26 or 27.
She's slightly too young, but so is Olivia Munn. I think Olivia Munn's like 2 or 3 years older. Who would be a good? You know, who'd be a good Rorschach? He's not an actor. Eminem.
I guess you would have to kind of like, I don't know.
Because
you'd have to like gruff up his voice a lot.
Him in 8 Mile is like Rorschach, that character in 8 Mile where he's just a kind of a maniac. Because Rorschach's supposed to be kind of a scrawny dude, but is intimidating. And like Eminem, I know it's a weird casting, but he would be really good.
He would. I guess, because it doesn't really matter what he looks. Well, in the prison, you would need to know, or you would need to see what he looks like in prison.
Oh,
but damn, but Jackie Earle Haley just looked too perfect for that.
He looked like the comic book character.
Yeah.
You know who would be a really good Dr. Manhattan? John Hamm.
Ooh, yes, he would.
Yeah, he'd be perfect because the chapter in the book and the scene in the movie where he's like, I'm sitting in 4-minute old sunlight, and then the end of the entire 30-minute scene or the like 30-page chapter, he's like, I am sitting in 5-minute old sunlight. Like he did that all in a minute, so like it's messing with your idea of time. And I think John Hamm has the voice, and for the motion capture has the like body and everything else for that.
John Hamm's voice with Wolverine's body.
Oh, Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, just do...
Put Hugh Jackman as, like, just throw on John Hamm's voice over his.
Yeah. You know what? Hugh Jackman could be a good... No, Night Owl has to be kind of fat and out of shape.
Yeah, he has to be, like, schlubby.
You know who would... Hugh Jackman would be a good comedian.
He would.
Yeah, like, Old Man Logan is the comedian.
I like it.
I think he would be really good. Who'd be a good Night Owl? Because that's a really hard character to cast. Because you have to be like this likable everyman who apparently has an erectile dysfunction. That's a big part of the movie. If you guys have never seen it and read the book, he's got low T. But who would be him? Because he also has to be like a badass when he needs to be, but he's also kind of like an everyman. You know who I was thinking? Jason Segel.
Honestly, it could work, but I haven't seen him in like a serious role yet, though.
Yeah, if you somehow got him to do the serious role, he'd be good because he looks the part.
Yeah,
because
he's a bit taller.
He's like in shape, but he's a little doughy, but still in shape. Like he like very obviously could have been a superhero 10 years ago.
Right. This is like something I'm going to have to think about overnight to really nail down some of these parts.
Yeah, I would definitely. We'll talk about this week in the next podcast. We can do definitive lists, but you know who would be really good in that if they were older? Like if Night Owl was 20 years older, 15 years older, Bryan Cranston.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, what's his name? Jesse from Aaron Paul could be a good Rorschach.
Yeah, I can see that. He's not like physically like daunting or anything.
Yeah.
A bit on like he's like more svelte.
Yeah. For another one for Ozymandias, because the beginning scene with Ozymandias, he is the strongest man in the world. He essentially knocks someone out of a window and beats the ever-living shit out of somebody who's also a superhero. Like the opening scene in the bedroom or in the apartment. You'd have to get someone who's like really like lanky but really fit, but also like you could just put a shirt and tie over him and you would never know.
Ryan Gosling.
You know what? Yeah, Ryan Gosling would be good because he's really like intelligent and suave, but also could kick the shit out of you.
Yeah, he's got that unassuming kind of power.
You know what? Have you seen the movie The Nice Guys with Ryan Gosling?
Yes.
You know who'd be a good comedian? Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe.
Yeah, he'd be perfect because he's older. He's kind of like out of shape and gruff, but he could definitely kill you.
Yes.
He would instantly like turn you into paste. I think that'd be really good. I'm trying to think who would be the reporter at the end who kind of plays a pretty big role, the guy who drops the ketchup on the smiley face that's like a homage to the beginning. You could do a Haley Joel Osment for that character. Just like a 40-second scene. And then
I mean, he kind of looks the part now.
Yeah, he does look the part. I would want, who'd be a good alternate Dr. Manhattan? Idris Elba.
I was just trying to think of like some minority actors that we could put in some of these.
Because if you have only a
Idris
white
Elba,
guy,
dude, he would be awesome
as
Dr. Manhattan.
Because Dr. Manhattan's also supposed to be like a genius because he's a watchmaker and like an astrophysicist, and then he turns into essentially God. But I think it'd be cool. Also, I know Watchmen's very Cold War, but you could very easily make Watchmen the exact same story in the now. Instead of using Vietnam, use like anything in the Middle East.
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah, you could very easily translate that story to literally right now. Or you could make the threat, instead of Russians, North Korea. Because like the whole Red Scare is a big thing in it, but you can just change it to anything and redo Watchmen.
You could. I'm trying to think. Man, 10 years ago, if we were to do this, Denzel Washington as Night Owl.
Okay, yeah. Okay, let's fine. Before we end, we'll do our 90s casting or early 2000s casting, and next week we will have official ones, and like we'll just read them out. But okay, late 90s, early 2000s, so up to like 2010 castings for this movie. Night Owl, Denzel, yeah.
Because he's too old now
to
do that. Back then, he was like early 50s, late 40s maybe, just in that prime area, and could pull off like the dad bod that Night Owl needs.
Yeah, give him an extra 15, 20 pounds, and you're golden. Because then he can also play that relatable, likable guy. Because he can, I'm sure he has the acting chops to be hilarious. Because, like, Night Owl as, like, a guy is just funny. He's just, like, a dude who's kind of like this working stiff guy who's, like, stuck in the past, but then will kill you. Okay, I know this is kind of a stereotype role, but in the prison, there's like the little person who's like the mob boss, Peter Dinklage. Yeah. Peter Dinklage cameo. Yeah. And then you could have The Rock as the bad guy who tries to break into the cell and Rorschach cuts his hands off.
Cuts his hands off.
Yeah. Okay, early 90s or late 90s, early 2000s, Rorschach.
Who was like the lanky actor of that time period?
Oh, I have one for the old Night Owl, Clint Eastwood.
Okay.
That's old Night Owl.
Yeah. That could work.
I'm trying to think who would be that lanky kind of not gross, but like really tortured person from, who it would be? Heath Ledger. No, Heath Ledger's too pretty. But he's too pretty.
Ozymandias for Heath Ledger, maybe.
Yeah, Ozymandias
he was too young, though.
He was like 16.
Yeah, he was only like 27 or 28 when he died.
Yeah. Yeah, he'd be too young.
Crazy.
Yeah. Who would be... who'd be good Ozymandias? Who's the guy who played Harvey Dent in The Dark Knight?
Oh, shit. Man, for being like movie people,
we're really bad with names.
These names
yeah.
So much. Aaron Eckhart.
Aaron Eckhart would be good Ozymandias.
He could. And similar to him, I think Thomas Jane could be a good Night Owl.
Oh, Thomas Jane would be a really good Night Owl. He'd be fantastic. And then Dr. Manhattan. And then Silk Spectre's mom. Oh, Silk Spectre and her mom. Dr. Manhattan, early 90s. You have to have like kind of like a genius guy, but who has a very, very good body. I mean, you don't have to, but you can't cast someone who's 600 pounds in that role.
Right.
Who was big early 90s? You know who you could do? It would be a stretch, but George Clooney.
Possibly. He would really need to beef up, though.
Yeah, he'd have to get ripped. Him? Or, like... No, you couldn't do Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt's too much of, like, a loose cannon kind of character. He wouldn't be believable in that role.
How about this? Clooney for the comedian now.
Oh, 100%. If you give him some scruff and just give him a big thing of whiskey and you're like, okay, do this role. Yeah, 100% him as a comedian.
I think Clooney would have fucking fun with that too.
Oh yeah, he could just like go absolutely insane because you just have to be a complete loose cannon. But yeah, Dr. Manhattan also is like a moral compass because like in Vietnam where the comedian's like roughing up those women in the bar and stuff. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Manhattan's like, don't do that, dude. Like, you have to have someone who's like a moral compass, but also kind of detached from the world.
Yeah. Ooh. He doesn't quite look... I mean, he doesn't have to look exactly the same, but like Matt Damon as Ozymandias.
I could see
like early, like Departed era.
Yes. He would be perfect Ozymandias. Yeah, 100%. And, oh yeah, I could definitely see that. And then, who would be... in the early 2000s, I couldn't see it. I could see it more now, but a really weird version of Dr. Manhattan now you could do as Matthew McConaughey.
Possibly.
I have one.
Rorschach, McConaughey.
Yeah, Jared Leto as Ozymandias.
Okay. Yeah, he's got that kind of menacing, like, pretty boy look.
Harrison Ford as the comedian. He's too old. He would have done it like in like if you made that movie in 2001.
Oh yeah. He could have done that then.
Yeah. And then who's Silk Spectre's mom from back then? Because you have to have kind of like a big actress.
Sally Field.
Oh my god, yeah. Sally Field would be perfect because it's like Meryl Streep would have been good, but Sally Field you could do as more of like that loose kind of canon. She's like a little bit of a drunk, but like kind of a bad mom, but still a good mom. I think Sally Field could rock that. Daniel Day-Lewis as the Dr. Manhattan.
He can do anything.
Yeah, especially back then, because that's when he was like Bill the Butcher. And he was in There Will Be Blood. He could have done that because he has that presence.
For sure.
And yeah, if anyone listening has better recommendations for who we should do that for, we could. I think next week, a thing we should do is let's pick movies. Let's each of us pick like 2 or 3 movies and recast them. Movie recastings. And that doesn't mean we don't like the castings, but who would we cast in like either classic movies you can do now or back then or modern movies? Let's do that.
Do it.
Cool. That's pretty much the episode. Do you have anything else?
I'm good.
Cool. Also, if you have any hate mail, if you send it to me, I will read it on the air. That's my new thing. I'm going to start reading our hate mail. Not that we have that much. I think I've gotten like 6 things over the past 45 weeks. So, yeah, maybe 7 things. But I've saved them all. I have them on my phone. But yeah, thank you so much, Ben, for coming back. Thank you, listeners, for coming back. Thank you for making this podcast like part of your listening regiment. This has been an episode about space, but has degraded into talking about starting cars with your penis and Watchmen. So yeah, that was this episode. We hope you enjoy it. It was another long one because when Ben and I are on the show, we just talk. Basically until someone cuts us off. But yeah, thank you, Ben. Ben, do you have anything to say? Ben, you have to make an Instagram or something.
I had an Instagram, but then I got like blocked out of it because of like not using it.
Okay.
And it won't let me like sign in with like different emails. It's like, we know who you are. So I'm like, oh, whatever. But yeah, I'll get out my Twitter handle next time, and I'll start plugging some stuff.
I know right now, for those of you who listen, and everyone else, my Instagram. Okay, Ben's gonna go do a thing. Ben and his kid are doing a thing. So yeah, I'm gonna keep talking. But what was I just saying, guys? This is just turning into complete debauchery. Guys, I was saying something. All of you are screaming at the microphone that I was on to something. Oh, I totally forgot. But yeah, so my Instagram right now is my Instagram, and I just call it See What Sticks. However, I think I'm going to make a See What Sticks Instagram because my Twitter is See What Sticks, and that's all I post about. I think I'm going to do the same thing on Instagram to get more of a community thing going. But yeah, I really want to do that, have more of a community atmosphere, do like listener questions. I would love to do more listener question things and have community involvement from that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It's something a little different and something that Ben and I kind of planned out pretty recently, that we just want to go on like this rabbit hole of like outer space and theoretical stuff that I think was kind of interesting. I mean, I don't know what you guys think. You guys could have thought it was the most boring thing in the world. I'm going to just keep talking. I know Ben's not here yet. You'll hear him when he gets back. If you guys want to know what I'm doing, I'm sitting in the podcast studio in my house, and there's Chinese food, and I'm really hungry because it's like 10:15 at night, and I haven't eaten, which I understand is really unhealthy. Do any of you guys do that? Eat really unhealthy stuff? Maybe. Or like eat at bad times. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about the body and metabolism to know why it's unhealthy, even though I used to work at a gym, which I probably should have known that, even though I was like kind of like a fitness trainer. I probably was the most unqualified fitness trainer in the history of trainers, if I think about it. I mean, I work out. Does that mean I'm good? I'm just doing a rant. It might as well, right now, this part of the episode, just be a Russell episode right here because Ben's gone. I'm going to just keep doing this. So I think some other topic ideas we're going to come up with. I know Emma and I are going to do one that's like a relationship-y kind of advice one, that we're just talking about stuff and like mistakes, but not like mistakes, but just things that we've learned. I think it'd be kind of interesting. I don't think I can do that with Ben because Ben and I are in a relationship. We're just friends who do a podcast now. But yeah, if any of you have questions for the podcast, you should 100% email them to let us see what sticks. Oh, Ben is back.
Much apologies. My son woke up in a little bit of a rage.
Oh, no, it's okay. The audience now knows that you were doing that, and I was talking about making an individual Instagram, and I just started saying stuff to fill up the time. But yeah, I hope is your son okay?
He is okay. He just wakes up every now and then with a little bit of fussiness.
Ben, are you okay with saying what your kids' names are on the show? Because I don't think you've ever said. If not, it's fine.
Yeah, my daughter's name is Madeline, and my son's name is Max.
Cool. Nice. Okay, is your son's name Max, or is it short for something?
It is just Max.
Okay, one of my buddies is Max, and then I have another friend that's his name is like Maximus, and it's Max. So you just gotta ask, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's cool. I like those names. Good names. Good picks.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm friends with you on Facebook, so I know. But does your son look like you?
He is definitely he resembles his mom.
Oh, really?
And my daughter is a spitting image of me.
That's awesome. That's kind of cool. That's flipped. That's super cool. I don't have kids, guys, if you haven't guessed, but I feel like it'd be so weird. So the little thing out here, I'm adopted. So, I mean, my parents look like me because we're all white people. So all white people kind of look alike. But I think it'd be weird because my dad looks like me just because we're both like tall white guys with similar haircuts and everything. Like, we do look similar. But I think it'd be really interesting to meet someone who looks like me. And that's a question I always get. Do I want to meet, like, my birth family? The answer is not really. Nope, I don't. I have no desire to. But I think it'd be weird if you had a kid and they look like you. It's like a little you. That just blows my mind. It's just like crazy. But yeah, that was my total spiel on that. Because people do ask, and that for everyone who's listening, don't ask me that question anymore. The answer is no, I don't really want to meet them. Would I want to see what they look like in a picture? Yeah, probably. But I wouldn't really want to meet them. I just don't have any real desire to, unless I had a sibling who was also like adopted into the United States and lived in another family. I would want to know that more than meet them. And then maybe in time I would, but I don't really have any real desire to. But yeah, that's just that. But yeah, thank you, Ben, again for coming on the show. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, everyone, for sticking through this. This is See What Sticks, and as, again, we have proved, this is a show about everything and nothing. And if you want to reach the show, Instagram, email, there's a Facebook page, all that. Get a hold of us. We love to hear from you. Suggest a topic. Tell us how much you like us. Okay, bye.
Bye, everybody.